Thank you. By the way, I have had my colon checked, just so you know. Because I know you were thinking, I wonder if John got his colon checked. By the way, the reason that they wanted me to be here was they said, somebody who's a little more of an observer might be able to hold it together. So I've agreed that if I start losing it, Tracy's mom is going to yell. Thank you. Fuck yeah. Thank you, Tracy's mom. You're awesome. The next person we're bringing up is Blaine's co-host of Pod Thingy and writer, Johnny Mulhall.
I'll put this right here. I'm going to put this back here. And there's no way I'm going to make it through this without breaking down. I know that about me. I'm a weeper. It's who I am. I've come to live with it. So if I start to do that, and there's nothing wrong with it, but if I start to do it and it can compound on itself like a snowball, and then we're here all night because you won't be hearing my words. Awful. So what I'm going to do is point over here, and Kim is going to say, fuck yeah. So, and I think that'll be enough for me to compose it. I love you too, stranger in the dark. Okay. My name is Johnny Mulhall. Some of you know me as John Mulhall. That's okay too. I was Blaine's friend for a very long time. As some of you know, I'm a writer. I write for a living. That's what I do. And yet, I put off writing this for a very long time. See? It's already starting. We're in so much fucking trouble right now. I sat with blank page in front of me and felt that panic that writers sometimes feel. What would I say? What could I possibly say that would be meaningful? That would be heartfelt? That would be true and resonate as true with the others in this room? What could I say that would be worthy of my friend? And I still don't have an answer to that. Because what could be worthy? What words would do him justice? What words wouldn't make the loss of him, this larger-than-life presence of Blaine, seem trite? Blaine's gone. Our friend is gone, and that loss is all of ours to bear. All of us. For those in this room who are family, for those who have considered him family, for those who knew him for decades, and for those who were equally touched by his unique spirit and by his passion, even though they hadn't known him quite as long. It's ours, together, all of us. And what I've learned, and what I'm learning through this process, is that grief, while at once universal, something common to every human being that will ever walk on this planet, it is also completely and absolutely personal. What is the right way to grieve? Certainly my right way is going to be different than your right way or his or hers. And when we combine that with the anger that's natural when this kind of thing happens, this kind of loss, it's so easy to find oneself slipping and judging the intentions of others, the actions of people who are also suffering, but maybe showing it in a way that we don't really quite understand or maybe not be comfortable with. And honestly, I've been finding that I'm doing that to myself sometimes. I question myself. Is this the right way to do it? Is this emotion I'm feeling today okay? Is it not too much? It feels like too much. Is it enough? Is it okay for me to laugh right now? Is it appropriate right now for me to cry? Apparently, yes. The answer almost always is yes. Yes. And I know that Blaine wouldn't like that silly second guessing, that dwelling on the appropriateness of my grief or the grief of others. I know firsthand what Blaine would do. He'd give me a big damn hug, a squeeze, and he'd say, I've got your back, and I love you, dude. Fuck yeah. I love you, dude. I love you, dude, I believe, were the last words I said to Blaine. Not because it happened to work out that way. Not because I was somehow fortunate in those final moments I spent with him, but was because I was fortunate every single time we talked. I never doubted Blaine's friendship. I never doubted his love. In fact, Blaine was the first man outside of family, the first friend to say, I love you. And I'm not gonna lie, it felt kind of weird at first. Because society says male friendship involves a hearty handshake. You know, maybe a pat on the back. Maybe, if you're great friends, a 3-pat hug. I'm not gay. But with Blaine, that was just never enough. He wanted you to know that he cared about you. And I'd like to think, among other things, some good, some bad, that is something that he taught me. Something that has and will continue to pay dividends in my life. Tell your friends you love them. Hug them tight and for as long as they need. When you start doing that, it's contagious. I love you, dude. That's what he'd say if he were here. And if he could see how nervous I was to stand up here and try to pay him respect, an impossible task. It's impossible. And I'm pretty sure he'd make fun of me a little bit too. I can tell you, while I know he'd love the idea of so many beautiful people gathering together in one room to talk about him. I also know he wouldn't like the tears. He'd want us to be happy. That's who he was. He'd want us to remember the good times and tell the good stories and to laugh and to smile. But it's so fucking hard to do when there's such a void, such an emptiness. I know for me, that emptiness will never be filled. Not in exactly the same way. There will never be another Blaine Alexander, and I wouldn't want there to be. He had no understudy. There was no replacement. He was one of a kind. And I want that Blaine-shaped hole to exist in my heart so that I can remember him. The good and the bad of him, the joyous and sorrowful, all of him. As some of you know, nothing short of miraculous has come out of this experience. We've seen a wonderful tribe form. Fuck yeah. Pretty soon this is going to turn into church. Can I get a fuck yeah? That's gratifying. We've seen a wonderful tribe form. People united by nothing more than their love of one dude. New voices, saying things that resonate with our hearts, that provide comfort. Strangers providing comfort. New friends. And some of those friendships are going to last the rest of our lives. And some won't. And that's okay. And none of those friendships are going to be a substitute for what we lost. They're different. And that's okay too. Because life is change and goes on. And so will we. On the Facebook group, we've been fortunate to read many stories about Blaine, about his spirit, his giving nature, stories recalling his shenanigans. Truly, thank you for those, because so many brought a smile to my face as I could recall a specific memory, and others were stories I'd been hearing for the first time, and yet never surprised. Because if you knew Blaine, what could surprise you? And, personally, I haven't posted many stories, kind of like Britton, to the Facebook page, and maybe I will at some point when that feels right. But I did want to share something with you that I always found interesting about Blaine and my friendship. Neither of us could recall exactly when we became close friends. We started off as acquaintances when I was still just a teenager, friends of friends, and then we actually became rivals for a short period of time, both for the attentions of a woman and for a job. And I still only slightly knew Blaine then. I was determined not to like him. And every time we found ourselves forced together, begrudgingly, we were the ones off in the corner talking. We had no lack of conversation. And every time I'd leave, I'd kind of grit my teeth and go, fuck, I think I kind of like that dude. That progressed to looking forward to those times where we were forced together, which kind of progressed to several years of us saying, we really should kind of hang out on our own sometime. Why don't we do that? But then it gets cloudy. And I can't tell you the next step because I don't know how it went from we should hang out to best of friends. I just don't know. I think sometimes friendships happen organically like that, as if you just know that person was meant to be in your life. But then, Blaine made everyone feel special, so I don't know. That was his gift, right? That was his gift. And what a beautiful gift to have. I don't care that I don't remember how he came to be like a brother to me. That's how real family is. You don't remember the beginnings. They're just a part of your life, and you can't imagine it without them. While Blaine and I have always been very different people, we shared much common ground where it counts. From music and movies, of course, to philosophies on the world, we just had a lot in common. We recognized the geek in one another early on, bonding over our love of Star Wars in particular, and so many of our common experiences were focused around that aspect of our lives. Or Jägermeister, whatever. It's... Who's counting, really? From midnight movies to producing our own podcast. And John, you should know that was one of the best days of his life. It really was, having you on. That was a subject that both of our eyes would always light up when it came to that letting out our inner geek to play. And of course, that wasn't it. That wasn't surface. Like we still had those long conversations about life, about love, and about nothing in particular. During the last few months of his life, Blaine and I had many conversations about what was important. He truly wanted to talk about his mortality, and he didn't as well. But we found the right times, and we had those talks, and I'm very glad that we did. He said he had no regrets in life. How many of us get to say that and mean it? He meant it. I asked him if he was afraid. And he said he wasn't afraid of dying, but that he was afraid of missing out. Right? He was afraid of missing out on his friends and the good times and the movies and the events and the parties and the life decisions. Blaine would have loved this party. And he'd hate to be missing it. I'd say I wish he was here, and the fucking obviousness of that statement is somewhat staggering. But I'm not going to say that, because it also wouldn't feel right. He's here. He's here in every story you tell about him. He's here in the choices about the program and the MC. He's here in the music that has been and will be played. And he's here in the drinks that will be consumed. And again, I'm talking about Jaeger. He's here all around us, on our lips, and in our minds, and in our hearts. As a geek, I think Blaine would appreciate if I threw some geeky references into this. So I could say his watch was ended. I could say he's crossed the Rainbow Bridge. Or I could say that of all the souls I've encountered, his was the most human. But it's far more likely and seemingly staggeringly true that I would say, though cancer struck him down, he's become more powerful than we could possibly imagine. Can I get a fuck yeah? That won't ever get old. You know, although Obi-Wan never actually did anything very powerful in those movies, he just appeared for long expository chats with Luke and Yoda. And that would be pretty okay, too. I'd like that. Ultimately, I'll forego those geeky references, and I'll simply say this. I love you, dude. Thank you.
That's gonna be a big hug. That's gonna be a big one.